Hi, I'm Guy Lawrence and you are listening to the Guy Lawrence podcast. If you're enjoying this content and you want to find out more and join me and come further down the rabbit hole, make sure you head back to guylawrence.com.au. Awesome guys, enjoy the show. Ivo.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much.
Look at this setting. What are we sitting in right now?
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is incredible.
Actually, we are in the middle right now of a Sardinian shepherd's hut, and this is an incredible place.
It's beautiful, and for the guys, because everyone most listen to audio, but it's worth checking out the little video they can see behind. And it's a shame because the mountings in front of us are incredible.
It's marvelous, and this is where our shepherds, in a way, have lived for thousands of years, in a way, lost in time and always in the same way. And that's fascinating.
It's been incredible. Look, it's our 6th day on the longevity experience with Sardinia. You know, you've been with us the whole time,
even if it seems a month.
And you've survived, which is you've survived.
It wasn't easy. I have to be honest.
But we've already covered 12, I think probably 12 kilometers at least today hiking. I'm on my second glass of red wine, so it's going to be interesting, the next conversation. But now I ask everyone on the show, and I want to ask you this particular question, and that is, if a complete stranger stopped you on the street and said, Ivo, what do you do for a living? What would you say?
That's a complicated question. I'm just bringing around people, basically foreigners. And I'm just sharing whatever we have over here, over this beautiful island lost in the center of the Mediterranean Sea. And this is it. I'm trying to share our culture, our values. And we promote ourselves saying that we basically work with in the longevity field, even if you want it is a pretext, because we are just trying to find ways to present our culture in a wider way. This is it. And what is particular is that we try to give it a scientific base, aimed to understanding a little bit more the blue zones and all the phenomenon of longevity. So we start from whatever the scientific community says about a particular singular element, and then we will turn it into an experience. This is what we've been doing these days.
And it's been
so
an
you
experience.
know what I mean.
Yeah. And you know what's been interesting, because I've been podcasting for probably 5 years now. And like I said, I interviewed Dan Buettner a couple of years back, who wrote the Blue Zones book, of course, and I know you've connected with him and many other amazing people. And there's been a bit of a theme and conversations that have been going on within the podcast and a great interest. But until I actually got here, and what you've done with us over the last 6 years has just blown my mind. And it's not until you live and taste, like you physically be here and experience it, there's no comparison. And that's what's fascinated me the most by the whole experience from it. And it's like chalk and cheese. You know, we think about it, we philosophize about it, but until you submerge yourself in this culture, it's been quite incredible. What led you to look at longevity in the first place? Like, where does your interest and passion come from at all?
I don't know. It's complicated because in a way things just happened. I found myself working for the university. I've worked several years as a researcher. And during those years I was able to make a PhD in metabolism. Then when in 2006 I quit the university I found myself organizing culinary trips also because, I mean, I've always given culinary lessons to foreigners. It was a way for me to train my English and to have the possibility to spend time with mother tongues, which was brilliant, great. And in the end, I mean, things just happened, and I had good reviews. And after a couple of years, I found myself just organizing these long culinary trips that would have lasted also a week. So it just came natural to me to bring in some science also, because I had that interest.
Okay. And where did when did you first come across the term blue zone? Because I mean, with the amount of wine that flows through Sardinia, I'm surprised it's not called a red zone. You know, but where did the blue zone term come from, and what put it on the map for you?
Yeah, it seems that in the middle of the 90s, a demographer, a Sardinian demographer, was called Dr. Gianni Pes, was wandering around and ticking down the elders, the centenarians in every municipality.
Okay.
And in the end, he found himself with a blue blotch on a map. Since then, the term blue zone has been applied to all those places.
So he was literally pinning on the map, like blue spots of where all the centenarians live.
Exactly. So since then, the term blue zone has been applied to those places which have an unusual number of centenarians compared with the regular population.
Got it. Right.
Yeah.
And then what's the because obviously we've met some Sardinians, including Gino, the elder centenarian, was just. We'll have to talk about Gino soon, who's a legend. What determines the population to become a official blue zone? I'm assuming that obviously there's many things that qualify, but you talked about density, so centenarians per 100 or per 1,000 per people. What's the figures around that?
I mean, in many countries, the proportion between centenarians and the population is 1 to 5,000 people. Like in the United States, for instance. In other places, it's 1 to 10,000.
Yeah.
And what needs to be clarified is that Sardinia, considered as a whole, is not a blue zone at all. So more or less, we boast the same numbers as mainland Italy. So it's only a cluster of villages in the center of the island, which straddles between the historical region, which is called Barbagia, and Ogliastra. According to some researchers, it's 13 villages. According to others, it's 16. But I mean, it's not that important right now.
Yeah.
Among these villages, the number of centenarians is just amazing. It's compelling.
Yeah.
And in certain villages, for instance, like in Seulo, until 2 years ago, still we had 7 centenarians living at the same time in a population of 900 people. So it means nearly 1 centenarian every 100 people, which is just incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And this is true for the majority of these villages in that particular area, which is the mountainous central region of Sardinia. And something that I would like to add is that the Sardinia Blue Zone is different from the others because of the proportion between male centenarians and female centenarians. That's what draws the attention of most of the scientists, because if it is true that in Japan the rate is 1 to 4 centenarians, I mean 1 male centenarians and 4 female centenarians. In other places that are not even considered as blue zones, the rate is 1 to 8, always in favor to the female centenarians.
The women are always outliving the men.
Oh yeah. In Sardinia, in some places the proportion is 1 to 2, And in Seulo, actually, which has been considered to be the longest lived village in the world because of the male life expectancy, it's 1-to-1. Actually, the men outlived the women because during the last, considering that spell of time that goes from 1864 to 1930s, they've had 21 different centenarians. 11 were men and 10 were women. So it's the only example where the male centenarians outlived the female centenarians, which is interesting because understanding the causes, understanding the reasons, you would like
exactly
get more thoroughly and understand better how it works.
And it gives us men hope.
Yeah,
Absolutely. What do you think are, from all your experiences, I mean, we've spoken about it on different podcasts before, but and I know it's not just any one thing, but if you had to distill it down to several aspects of why they are living older, but what, again, using Gino as the reference, was how his posture was amazing, how fit and strong his hands were incredible. I've never seen hands like it. Like it was, you could almost, just to give you an example, I got big hands, you could double them, put them on top of each other, and that was a hand. His mind was as sharp as a 21-year-old. His quick, sense of humor was incredible. And you know what the most beautiful part of the conversation?
I mean, you've traveled all the world. We were 20 over there, and everyone was crying. This is something that I would like to share with everyone. He made us cry.
He did
in a minute.
We were all captivated, all sitting around, and what was beautiful as well. Well, there was a couple. Actually, it was many beautiful aspects, including it was my wife and I's second wedding anniversary, and he came up and blessed us, which was, my wife burst into tears from that. It was just amazing. But when we asked him, does he ever get stressed? His answer was incredible. He didn't know.
Basically, he didn't understand. Actually, it was the only question that he couldn't understand because he doesn't even know the meaning of the word. And when we tried to explain what we meant, it just gave us a laugh, a very fat laugh, and he just explained that it doesn't even know what it is, and he explained, and what that was meaningful. He was just explaining that it's not chasing after anything, but it's like living his life, waking up so early, working hard every day, having a sense of purpose, and that's it. Waiting the next season. Let's use Gino as the example, and we're going off on a tangent a bit, but that's fine.
What would his typical day look like? Because he's how old was Gino? 90.
He was 94.
94.
Yeah, and still he owns a few goats. Because he loves them, I guess, and he has been shepherd since he was 6 years old, and he gave us an account about his history, and he started working with a shepherd as a servant, and he was given a goat as a payment every month. So after a couple of years, he was able to set them apart, to split with his own flock of goats, and since then he has worked as a shepherd. So basically he's still doing the same life, and I think he plays an important role in his state of humor, in his state of health.
You were saying he gets up at 5:30 every morning, and then he'd go milk the goats.
He goes to the countryside to tend the goats and to milk them, and then he has a garden, which is quite interesting because everyone in those villages cares about knowing what they are having at lunch, knowing what they're eating. So this is very interesting and very important the awareness about the quality of the food you're having, the eating locally, eating seasonally, and at the same time it keeps you busy because you work, you plow the land, you hoe,
they're constantly moving every day,
physically
right?
trained,
Yeah.
and
What do you think is typical nutrition would be? Because I want to raise this because there's so many. I'm sure it's the same here in Sardinia, but in Australia there are so many different things that we seem to be going through movements about the ketogenic diet, the paleo diet, veganism, vegetarianism. There's all these kind of counter arguments and fads almost that come in and out, and people almost hang on to these things like nirvana.
It's very complicated because especially the scientific community is allured by trying and finding and singling out just one element at a time, because it is easier probably to get the funds, because it is more fascinating.
Yeah. What would Gino eat normally? Like, what would his
Gino eats like he has some plain goat milk in the morning, and then basically the staple diet of Gino is represented by the bread, by the legumes, and basically he has always had cheese and legumes and the minestrone, which is
would he have the
Italian
lard as well?
Vegetable soup, yeah.
Would the lard come into it, or
this is a big question. Because it's quite crazy to consider that the diet of the Sardinian centenarians is not even considered to be a Mediterranean diet, even if we are in the center of the Mediterranean, completely surrounded by the sea. But it was very rare, especially at the beginning of the past century, to have fish for those communities, which were in the very center of the island, and they didn't have access to the seaside. And as you know, because we have discussed this many times, we are not famous in the world for being fishermen. We have always been weary against the sea. We are not fishermen. So only the problems arrived from the sea. That's why probably the Sardinians just retreated inward. So the Sardinian diet, at least the one related with our centenarians, it's not considered to be a Mediterranean diet, because they didn't eat fish basically.
And it goes against everything that we're told in the Western culture.
Yeah.
And what was amazing as well, now you mentioned the word bread. Now, I don't eat bread back in Australia, right? And I know a lot of people that don't either. But and initially you think, what's going on? But when you took us through, like you've taken us through every step of the way through this tour of how the wheat is sourced, the bread is made. I mean, it's not like buying bread from a supermarket. I want to make that clear first. Yeah. What makes the bread so different? You don't have to go too scientific with it, but if you could just explain a little bit of what you've actually put us through the last 2 days and experiencing that.
We've been making bread during these days with ancient varieties of wheat, and now it's a big thing, the one about not having gluten in your diet, because it seems like promoting the inflammation, but at the same time we don't have cases back in time, especially with our centenarians, of people developing this kind of allergies against the wheat. And I have to add that more than 70% of the caloric intake of our centenarians in most cases came from the consumption of the bread, because they were poor. Yeah. And basically they would have had bread with something, bread with onion, bread with lard, bread with a vegetable soup, or sometimes it was just only bread. So it might be that even the quality of the bread has changed during these decades, with the alimentary industry trying to produce flours which are more powerful. That means with a higher content in gluten because they can resist to longer risings, for instance.
Okay.
So they didn't have that need, and the quality of the wheat was different for sure.
Yeah, amazing. And even the way it was made from, the stone mill that you took us to, and from the
made in a traditional way with a sourdough. It's a completely a different food. I mean,
yeah, and we've all been eating it.
If you eat a bread which is basically made with refined flour, that it's not anything more than sugar. Because more than the 80% of that flour is starch, and the starch is just glucose. It makes a huge difference with the bread that we made together, which was a whole wheat bread with all the insoluble fibers and the germ and whatever. I mean, in a way, it's just empty calories. It's a way to introduce sugar in your bloodstream. And the other bread, it's like a noble food with a lot of minerals and vitamins. And
Yeah, it's been incredible. Like, we've been eating it. I have no bloating, no reactions.
Mm-hmm.
You feel good. Like it's been a real big eye opener for us all on the trip.
Glad to know that.
Yeah, totally. So, for people listening to this, they're sitting in there. Probably 70% of the listeners will be from Australia. I got people in America listening and so forth. If you could, I don't know, maybe take 3 lessons or 5 lessons from the way they live in their life, and we could incorporate into our daily life. What advice would you give someone?
No, I don't like to jump in that. I mean, I don't think that everyone right now is trying to give numbers. So everyone right now is trying to say, just to give you an example, well, I think it's that 22% is genetics, and it's much more complicated than that. And I think that no one has an answer yet.
Okay.
And it's dozens and dozens of different elements combined together, which implies the cultural system. Because it's not only about genetics, because we are quite sure that genetics is involved. It's not only about the diet and the lifestyle. It's more than that, because it depends then of the environment. It depends of the interactions that you have with others. Depends on the communities. Depends of the family, and how the elders in a way are treated. It's much more complicated. And what is very interesting is that there is not a single formula. I mean, what might work in a place, in a specific environment, possibly wouldn't work in another one. So it's very difficult, and I think that it doesn't make sense to try and find few.
You've been telling us every day. Absolutely, I know. But I wanted to raise that.
I just want to play honest.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And the other thing I love as well is the term elders. Because there's a huge amount of respect for the elders, and sadly, I don't believe that's the way in the Western culture.
Yeah, even if sadly things are changing even here. I mean, I realize that when people arrive here, they just keep asking questions like if we are drifting away in history and completely different from the others. It's not like that anymore. Since the arrival of the television in the 60s, we have opened up a window on the world, and unfortunately things are changing.
Yeah. Of course.
Or fortunately, I mean, it depends on the point of view.
Yeah. How do you see it's really hard to explain. Like, here we're sitting in this amazing place. We've seen some amazing things. You've taken us to so many, the way the shepherds would live as well, and move, and the way they would cook and eat. And we've been having some amazing experiences. And there's definitely a preservation there to some degree of this, this proud past that Sardinia has is quite incredible. I mean, where do you see it all sort of heading in terms of the villages, the centenarians? Do you think it's a case of a dying breed and it's going to slowly fizzle out, or do you think it's going to be able to preserve this special magic that seems to be there right now?
It's hard to answer this question. I am a positive person,
Very positive.
But about this singular and specific aspect, I don't know if I feel very positive. What is true is that among our villages during the last 50 years, the population halved. Because of the lack of work and because of the lack of opportunities, entire generations just fled away. So we've had waves of people just leaving the island, and right now it's not only that the youngsters are not willing to work as shepherds, herding or working with agriculture. It's also a lack of enthusiasm. There is not enthusiasm because there are not youngsters, so the young minds are not there anymore to produce ideas. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
Some people are trying to withstand. Some people are trying to resist, and hopefully things will change for the better. But I'm not.
Is the government intervening? That support,
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No,
It's
no.
all.
I wouldn't say that. No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And what about the place that you took us to with the? There was a beautiful shop that we went to, and it was paying reference to the centenarians that lived in the village, and it was magic, and we could come in and really start to appreciate what was actually.
You mean in Seoul?
Yes, in
Yeah.
Seoul, yes.
Yeah, that one is an organization founded by European funds, and you're right. Yeah, that is a very nice example of an attempt to promote their traditions and the culture of the place. Yeah,
Yeah.
and actually it's working because it's thanks to that organization that I was able to establish my net in that village. Yeah. But it's just a tiny drop in an ocean.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
yeah. But it brought us here.
Yeah.
You've had to put up with 15 of us for the last 6 days. Did you know what to expect from us before we arrived?
We've been working on this program for quite a long. I knew your expertise. I knew that a few in the group were nutritionists, others were naturopaths. So in a way or in another, I thought that this project could have worked. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say this on camera for the point. It's been exceptional. I mean, in all honesty, I didn't know. I actually try not to put too much expectation on things. I like to just try because the moment you put expectations on things, you can be disappointed in certain areas.
Yeah.
So I always like to.
I know what you mean.
So it was. I'm that kind of person anyway, where I just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
But it's been unbelievable. I mean, everyone.
You've been having fun with locals. That's it.
We've been having fun with locals.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, if you enjoyed this program, it's because you had the opportunity to spend time with locals.
100%.
And according with your curiosity, you had the possibility to understand whatever you were willing to bring away with you. And in a way, you've been treated not as clients, but as guests. And this, in a way, gave us the possibility to follow the flow.
100%. I felt like I've been introduced to just new friends the whole way through. Everyone's been every Sardinian, every local, they're very proud, but everyone comes from the heart and they deeply care, and and everyone just seems to enjoy the presence of good company and be themselves. There's no I don't know, there's no facade. It's all very real and raw, but magic. And we've been to places where you said there's no tourism, you know, and everyone just opens their arms, welcomes you in, and it's blown my mind.
Yeah.
I'm a convert.
I mean, I think it's an attitude which is proper. Places that are willing to share because in a way they feel neglected. I mean, it's like if we have an urge to communicate and to know even what you think about us. This is it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and that's why I wanted to get you on the podcast today. It's like people need to know about what is going on in Sardinia, and at least come and try it. You know, I think there's been nothing on the whole. Each day has gotten better and better, but it's told a story, and you've captured from the very moment where we went to the ruins and showed the history, all the way to we've picked grapes, you know, to make the wine. We've made bread and pasta, and we went to the olive oil plantation, which was fun. I mean, the olive oil. I've got a suitcase full of it. I mean, I'm bringing it back.
We made the cheese with the shepherds. I mean, basically we combine the two fundamental aspects of our culture. One that comes from being peasants or farmers. The other one that comes from being herders or shepherds. Yeah. And I think that we spent thousands of years in order to elaborate that kind of system, and this is what we've been trying to understand. And
well, it's captured everything, mate. And there's, like I said, there's 14 other people just outside this hut right now that have been very happy, and they're all getting slightly merry on the red wine down there, but they have gone a bit quieter, which is good. And it's been phenomenal. So for everyone listening to this, I just want to say you got to check out Ivo. His work is phenomenal. What's your website? So
it is tastingsardinia.com.
tastingsardinia.com. And that's what we've been doing for the last 6 days, and I'll be very sad to leave and go home.
We will meet again.
100%. I just want to thank you for everything and your time today.
It has been a pleasure, really.
Thanks, man.
Ciao.
Thank you.